Welcome to the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting of January 20th, 2021. The board did meet in closed session this evening. We took no reportable action in closed session. Superintendent Geisels, any changes to this evening's agenda?
No, President Zurich, no changes.
Would someone like to move approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Lupita?
Yes, Member Lidak,
Aye.
Member Hennessy,
Aye.
Member Driller,
Aye.
Clerk Larson,
Yes.
President Zurich.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to make comment on anything that is not on this evening's agenda. Anyone who has provided comments on things that are on the agenda will be taken at that time. Mr. Hilton, any public comment on items not on this evening's agenda?
No, all the public comment deal with agendized items.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we will move on to the Superintendent Chief Learning Officer's report. Superintendent Geisels.
Thank you, President Zurich. So if you are just patient with me a moment, I'm going to present my screen. Make sure this is up. Okay, just want to make sure everyone can see that.
Yes, looks great. Thanks, Carmen.
Okay, great. So thank you again for being here this evening. And tonight I'd like to address the board, the trustees, our staff, and community about our plans to reopen schools, our schools. Of course, you know our 5 guiding principles that we always focus on when making decisions based around our students, which are our core of our 5 guiding principles. So we are going to reopen schools, and the reason why we're doing it now is because our active cases within TTUSD is low, 6 as of yesterday. We have enough staff to be able to do this, and we also know that in-person instruction is very beneficial to our students. So we also have the ability for timely testing and results of our symptomatic staff and students. So it is time to reopen. I, along with my leadership team, would like to reopen our schools in hybrid instruction on Monday, February 1st. So cohort A students will be welcomed back to campus on Monday, February 1st, and this is for TK through 12th grade, all grade levels. Cohort B students will be welcomed back on campus on Thursday, February 4th, and cohort C students can remain in year-long distance learning. Our schools offer a safe environment physically and emotionally for our students, and our extensive safety mitigation measures in place will keep risks at a minimum. Not everyone is comfortable having kids back. We know that on campus, and we can continue to offer our distance learning cohort C option. We're planning schedules based on our students' cohort status back in November, and parents have been sent a form that they have the option to complete if they'd like their child to move from distance learning to hybrid or from hybrid to distance learning. As a reminder, those only need to be filled out by those requesting a change, and we ask that parents turn them in by tomorrow, Thursday, January 21st. As we've been talking about all year long, we have extensive safety measures in place at our school sites, and these are some of the examples. All students, TK-12, will be required to wear masks, as of course our staff. We have desk barriers that are installed in every classroom. We have MERV 13 filters installed at every facilities. We have counter barriers that we've installed where there is public interaction. And we have the interior and exterior wash stations throughout our campus. We have a dashboard that tracks all of our cases of COVID within TTUSD, staff and students who are on campus while in hybrid. It's updated every morning Monday through Friday, not on the weekends, with the latest cases. No names are given to maintain the confidentiality of our individual staff and students. We have response and notification protocols that are from the partnership with Placer County Office of Education and Placer County Department of Public Health. We have expanded our capacity for contact tracing should the need arise. And as a reminder, we have safety protocols for all staff and students. They start before anyone arrives on campus. They're important, and I would like to just go over and highlight them once again so everyone has a fresh reminder in their mind. A health screening must take place each day. So we're asking families to conduct a health assessment every morning before leaving for school or getting on the bus. We're asking that students and adults self-screen for any type of symptoms, a cough, congestion, shortness of breath, nausea, chills, or body aches. And if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, we ask the parents that students stay home and should not attend school, and of course to notify their school site offices. We are asking families to take temperatures daily before going to school. Anyone with a fever should not go to a school site. Personal illness, quarantine, and COVID-19 illness, symptom-related abstinence will be excused. Also, we are asking that if you are symptomatic, that you make an appointment at Right Out as soon as you possibly can for a COVID test, and this is open to our students and our staff. Any adult accessing campus also must conduct a self-assessment before coming to any school site. If a person is experiencing symptoms, again, please stay at home. We will ask that you not come to campus, and we will not admit you on campus. Same protocols that we've had in place as a refresher about what to do when you're arriving at school. Please wear your face covering. Please follow the social and safety mitigation distance measures. We also want to remind parents and visitors that they will have very limited access to the school campus. And we also have designated routes for entry and exit in order to limit direct contact with others. Every school has signage throughout the campus to remind students and staff about the social distancing, hand washing, and how to prevent the spreading of the virus. While at school, same refresher reminders for our students and staff. The safety committee has established personal safety requirements that all students and staff must follow. Washing their hands frequently throughout the day, wearing a face mask while on campus and when in a school district facility building, practicing social distancing, following the designated routes to enter campus, to leave campus, to exit to lunch or recess, and other transition times for our older students. We have protocols in place for restroom use, including the limited number of people in the bathrooms at our school sites. And if a COVID case arrives at school, we will take each case by case. If there's a safety risk at any time, we will close a classroom, a grade level, or a school site and move to distance learning. We do not intend to close the district-wide unless there's a significant increase in COVID cases and it becomes impossible to provide high-quality education in hybrid. We will also follow notification protocols that are very detailed and outlined. Our nurses will conduct extensive contact tracing. And also, just to be upfront, there's always a chance that as our bus drivers have experienced COVID along the year, that a bus route might be canceled on a given day if transportation staff members become ill. So again, our goal is to look at the source of the exposure and do everything we can if we have to close a cohort by grade level and avoid as much as possible the closure of the district-wide. Again, we're all in this together, and we all are part of the solution in minimizing our risks and keeping kids safe. I ask that you continue to wear your mask when you come back to campus, and that you also practice social distancing and avoid any large groups of gatherings if possible. We are only as safe as we practice in that respect. I know you might have some questions out there, and we know that you are wondering about these answers. Please know that we do read all of the parent emails that we receive. However, due to the recent very high volume, we haven't been able to respond to all of them. We do take your feedback very seriously, as well as the public comments that are submitted at, for example, tonight's board meeting and other board meetings. And we try our best to address these questions. We are working on a new set of FAQs for our families, and we will share with you very soon that will address your questions and your comments in your emails. So what about high school sports? Well, right now, as it stands, TTUSD can participate in sports approved by the California Department of Public Health Youth Sports Guidelines. And we will provide that link. You can see the state's tiered system for sports. TTUSD must follow California Department of Health guidelines, even though at the high school level we compete with NI2A. At this time, NI2A is also pausing a lot of different sports based on low and high impact and risks. We are getting legal guidance because of our unique situation as we are a California district, but we compete in another state. No decisions have been made for the 2021 high school sports competition seasons, except for hiking and snowboarding and Nordic skiing, which has been defined by California Department of Public Health as low contact and low risk. So that is what we follow as far as our guidelines. What about free meals? We will continue to provide free meals for our students, whether or not they are in hybrid or in year-long distance learning. So please look for our latest information if you go to our website and look at ttusd.org/food. The vaccine for school and staff. This one's a hard one. I was on a district superintendent's call for Placer County Office of Education, and the way to describe it is that there has been a pause, a 180, if you will, in the distribution of vaccines for individuals, and also with the addition of 65 and plus added as part of Tier 1A, those two combined have made it hard for Placer County Department of Public Health and Nevada County to provide any definitive dates on when school personnel, all school personnel, would be called in to be vaccinated. And I want to make sure that it is noted out there to our staff that I am looking for information daily, and I will distribute that to our staff daily. The one thing I do need to clarify is, as the superintendent chief learning officer, I do not have any influence on which school personnel will get vaccinated first. It was very clearly communicated to me by both departments of public health for both counties that there's a very specific criteria on how individuals are called. And I believe that the individuals themselves, we will hear a public announcement, and you will just have to make an appointment when it's our time to get vaccinated. So I know that is hard to hear, and that's very frustrating. It's frustrating for me, but I have faith that the vaccine distribution will pick up in the coming weeks. So that is my presentation. Again, we're happy to announce that beginning Monday, February 1st, we will start back in our hybrid model of instruction schedule for TK through 12th grade students in our district. So, President Zurich, I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments from the board, if there's any.
Thank you. So we'll start with board questions. Then we will listen to public comment. And then if the board has any comments after that, we'll take those. So board questions at this time. Dee Dee.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, I don't know if I can see you. I meant to ask this earlier, and I just was thinking, when we go back to hybrid, and the idea is to stay in hybrid for the least amount of time, and then go to full, or are we still considering going to full 5 days a week in person this year? Is that on the table?
That is a goal, Dee Dee. That is a goal that the district and the leadership team have. At the same time, there are steps that we have to complete in order to go into 5-day in-person learning. The new CDPH framework guidelines that have been released January 14th have requirements that we would have to make. Another consideration is we would like to see how the vaccines roll out for our TTUSD staff. in that respect. Another consideration that we would have to do is, even though it's 5 days 5 days a week in person, which is our status quo instructional program, we are obligated as a district to sit down and negotiate the working conditions and the workload conditions of both CSCA and TTEA. So we would have to have the opportunity to do that. So we know how to do hybrid. We can implement hybrid, and at the same time, we will plan for 5-day in person. It is my goal and my desire as superintendent to see that happening sometime before the end of the year.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be sort of out there, that it's
Out there?
not going to be
No.
like, if we go into hybrid, it's not going to be like a turnkey. And if our numbers don't go down in terms of cases, that's outside of our limitations as well. But in terms of us moving out of the negotiated structure that we have for hybrid to go into, even though that's our normal structure of school, is a 5-day, and it's what we had negotiated before, you know, in terms of that's what we are supposed to do. In order for us to do that, it's not going to be a flip. I'm just trying to clarify so that it's out there that we are not necessarily going to be able to walk right into 5 days just because we opened in hybrid. So there is definitely a process, and it's something that I think is, I'm thinking if we go into hybrid, it's going to be a hop, skip, and a jump to go into full day. But it's in reality, it's something that I think it's got to be out there, that it's not going to be an easy spin. This is an option that is being presented to get our kids somewhat in class, but it's not going to be something that is we have to restructure what we are in. We have to restructure our whole school again. So I just think it's important to make that clear, that I think maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe other people are too, that it's not an easy switch. So that I guess the patience that I'm asking for everybody out there to realize that there's a whole lot of work going into this. And then if there's a switch, there's a whole lot of other work going into the other switch. That was just thank you for my question and my comment.
We have to follow the guidelines for California Department of Public Health, and they were revised January 14th. And we have met those guidelines, those criteria, in a hybrid model of instruction. The guidelines for going to 5 days in person, if you had every student back on campus, there are guidelines for safety and mitigation measures that we would have to implement. And we would have to do that. And then, of course, the other items that I discussed. We have a goal. We're definitely going to address it. We definitely want to move to 5-day in person. At the same time, we have some things we need to do first to get ready for that.
Thank you, Carmen. Other questions from board members? I guess I'd like to ask a clarifying question around vaccinations. So originally, and maybe you can confirm my understanding, Superintendent Geisels, originally the educators were included in Tier 1B, and it appeared that tier was going to have the vaccinations available to them relatively quickly. And just for full disclosure, you and I have been working really hard with the hospital, who's a hero, and the 2 counties to make that happen. The thing that has changed is that the governor made the decision that everyone age 65 and older moved ahead in the priority line. Is that how you understand the change in the vaccination opportunities?
Yes. So we were informed at his press conference December 30, where school personnel stood across the state in Tier 1B, and that we would be the first wave of Tier 1B. During the course of the last 10 days, it was just announced that because of the governor's decision to move 65 plus into Tier 1A, and the Tier 1A, the last level, that place that age group, that demographic in front of school personnel. Now, of course, we do have some school personnel who are meeting that age requirement. So that's a great thing for them. That was a concern for us. And you're right, President Zerk, we've been working really hard with Tahoe Fourth and Placer County. I even volunteered, our nursing staff to help with expedition of the distribution of the vaccines when it was our time, and I was told there will be no school site clinics. It will all be distributed in certain areas. So Placer's going to use Safeway Kings Beach. And I believe Tahoe Forest is looking at a big, huge solution for a drive-through vaccine protocol. I know I was in a meeting with Dr. Weiss earlier today, and he said while he's pleasantly surprised about the surge not being as concerning as anticipated, he is waiting to get, it's an issue of demand versus supply. There's a lot of people who want the vaccine, but the supply is there, and they're Placer and Nevada are waiting for their allotments. So we will keep working and keep hoping that things will maybe pick up now that it's January 20th and things can change a little bit. But we will make sure our staff is the first to know and go from there once we find out.
Thank you. And then the protocols that we have in place now are similar but enhanced from the protocols that we had when we were briefly in hybrid in the fall. Is that correct?
Yes. The CDPH guidelines have made some protocols a little bit more structured. They're now telling us, as far as the distance now has to be really specific from chair to chair of a student, which we meet in hybrid, which is 4 feet from chair to chair. They're also being very specific about disinfecting, which we actually have adjusted and can meet that as well. I believe that since we opened in hybrid in October, we're considered a reopened school. So we are required, and we opened in the red chair, so we are required at minimum to provide testing for symptomatic staff and students. If we move to a 5-day person instructional model and we choose that, we would have to consider how we would address perhaps surveillance testing if it's a requirement. I've been notified that there may be yet another revision of CDPH framework guidelines by the 25th of January, which everything changes daily. We have information that just changes daily. So we have put many plans into place with childcare, with sub-coverage protocols that we're really confident that we can continue to stay open. Even if we may have a rush of exposures at one site, we will ensure that it doesn't affect all sites. We'll concentrate on that one site.
Were our mitigation measures successful in the fall within the classrooms?
In the classroom, I believe they were very successful. Todd Rivera and George did a fabulous job with their team, the custodial teams, to put up barriers, to distance chairs and desks. It was actually very well done. The issue was just the exposures from the adults and really impacting our staffing operations. That was the hard piece. But now we've put some Plan B options with the principal's help. We have been meeting since January 4th. I believe we have met with our school principals at least 7 times to talk about plans. We had a meeting yesterday and went through each and every item that we have for options to ensure that we would stay open and avoid at all costs closing the district down.
And when we closed right around Thanksgiving, the reasons were primarily that we didn't have enough substitutes. Mm-hmm. We had issues providing daycare to our employees that we had bargained with them to provide, and we didn't have enough testing at our ride outside.
Right.
And we have addressed those issues at this time.
So, for example, working backwards, the testing at Ride Out, we've added the hours for Ride Out are now 7:30 to 12. And every day a district employee picks up the completed test kits by 12:30 and drives them to Folsom, which cuts at least maybe 18 to 24 hours in response time. I was told that a staff member took a test yesterday and received the results today. So that's really a great thing for us. And also we're looking at, and it's a possibility, we haven't planned it out yet, but the nurses actually at Ride Out have brought this to our attention. They would like to do a mobile unit, maybe one day a week, where they do test on the lakeside and go to certain areas to make sure that we're reaching all of our population and test those symptomatics and maybe come to them. But that's just in the works. So we've been able to get testing down to a science. Subs, we have a shortened sub-credential time period now. It's up to 10 days. It used to be a lot longer to get a sub-credential. And if there's any TTUSD parent that has a bachelor's degree and a little time on their hands and would like to sub in our district, we will make sure that when the vaccines roll out for school personnel, that we will include our subs as well. So we had 101 subs registered in our district, and what the issue was is out of the 101, 69 were not working for different reasons, and so we had to rely on the same 31. We also have a backup list of all certificated personnel who aren't core instruction teachers, certificated management and classified management that can be dispatched to a school site if there's a pressing need for coverage. We also are looking at some of our classified employees who have bachelor's degrees that we may be able to call upon to sub at a last minute. So we've been thinking about all these different options, and the same thing for childcare. I spoke with Mindy Carbajal today. She's very excited about the February 1st date. She also has a plan in place for her staff to avoid the closure of their facility due to an exposure. And she said, let me implement that first. And I said, great, because I got plan B options at every single school site for every single student. So for example, if there's an exposure at Kings Beach Boys and Girls Club, and we had to put into a child care scenario into place. For example, North Tahoe High School has a site and a person available to provide child care for those virtual days for children of North Tahoe High School staff. And we have the Lake side and the Truckee side pretty well figured out in that respect. So that was another plan B option that we had as well. So we've been thinking long and hard about this. And we also have protocols that we're developing ourselves for our district, if-thens, we call them. For example, if a teacher is exposed but not symptomatic and wants to teach, we may put that particular classroom in distance learning. We're going to try to reserve our subs for middle and high school because they have a much different schedule. So we have thought long and hard about this. And again, this has been an experience for us because we learned something new. And had we known now, today, and I know it sounds idealistic, back in August, we probably would have thought these things through a lot sooner. But we've become experts and learned to love this COVID problem and be as creative as possible in that respect. And we will continue to be creative. That's the one thing. I know that my staff, I have to hand it to all of them, every single person, they're decision weary, but they keep moving forward. So we're ready, we're excited, and moving into hybrid will give us the opportunity to get our kids back, to get some familiarity, some routines, and we can plan for 5-day and do that. And hopefully the vaccines will come through, and hopefully the cases will drop, and the warm weather will start, with maybe some snow in between. But we are excited about moving forward for our students.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions I had. Any other board questions? So at this time, we will listen to public comment. Mr. Hilton, please.
We have a few on this item. I'll start with the ones that were emailed in. The first comment is from Charlene Dessler, and she writes, "Good evening. My name is Charlene Dessler, and I'd like to start by thanking Carmen for her hard work. I am an employee of TTUSD with 2 children in the district, a middle schooler and a high schooler. I understand that life is hard and challenging during this time. Both of my kids would prefer to be in school playing football, seeing friends, but they are old enough to understand the severity of the pandemic and the importance of safety. What I want everyone to know is that my children are not missing out on learning. They're learning in a different way. This is making them stronger and more capable to deal with the situations out of their control. I want to give a shout out to each of their teachers, Miss Steves, Miss Timmons, Mr. Nordby, Mr. Hanson, Miss Baker, Miss Barker, Miss Ernst, Mr. Fleesock, Ms. Wilson, Miss Goss, Mr. Hinkle, Mr. Norbitas, Miss Meyer, and Miss Arrington. You are all doing an amazing job and working harder than ever. My kids are doing great because of you, and I am thankful. Keep up the good work. Thank you." The next comment comes from Lauren Baker. She says, "Good morning, P2SD leadership. Today is a monumental day, a first of many. Kamala Harris will be the first female vice president in U.S. history, so I'm urging you to carry this momentum into the TTUSD board meeting tonight when making decisions for our community and children. Our children have been out of school for 10 plus months without a concrete plan to get and keep them in the classroom. This is only further widening the academic gap of our children, especially those most vulnerable, our children of color, and our children from low socioeconomic background. Our children have been patient long enough. They have done more than their part for this common good of decreasing the spread of the virus. However, we all know that this pandemic is not two-dimensional and much more complex. Our kids are being deeply affected for years to come, including but not limited to their mental health, college prospects, and earning potential. It is time for action. Tonight, at the TTUSD board meeting, I'm asking our leadership to put our kids' interest first and make a progressive plan to get our kids back in the classroom. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from our leadership tonight. Sincerely, Lauren Baker, Glenshire mother of 3. The next comment is from Helen Smith. She says, I'm writing this in regards to reopening our schools. I would hope that you would look at the numbers and not personal opinions. My cousin's husband just died yesterday from COVID-19, leaving her a widow with 3 children. This is a deadly pandemic and we cannot wash it away. No matter how much hand washing and mask wearing, it's still possible to spread at a rapid rate. A mutation is now on Californians' mind. Schools across the nation are closed and their states have much lower numbers than ours. We all want our kids back when it's safe, and as of now, it's not. Thank you, Helen Smith. Next comment is from Jonathan Moulton. He says, Dear board members, I find myself writing again as a very concerned parent and community member. Just like the rest of this community, I want my 2 children back in school too. Though I'm very impressed with the district's rollout of distance learning, I also know that children learn best while in school and need to be in school. I know the board is excited because numbers of positive cases within our district might be down, but I also know that not all students and staff within the TTUSD district are reporting positive cases while on distance learning. We are so close to having vaccinations available to teachers, parents, and caregivers. Why not wait until at least the first round has been distributed, if not the second round? We know that though we do not all like distance learning, it is much better than losing a community member, teacher, or student to COVID-19. We have come this far. Please do not rush and open the schools. We are a strong community, and though this is not ideal, we can pull off just another month or 2 of distance learning while we wait for teachers and other essential workers to receive their vaccinations. Again, I urge you to please push the opening date back a bit more while our community waits for vaccinations. Thank you very much for taking not only my children's safety into consideration, but also our entire community. Jonathan Moulton. The next comment's from Ben Shefts. He says, hello, I'd like to submit the following comments and questions to the board for their consideration as you discuss reopening and the hybrid model. In the fall, the district transitioned to hybrid at a time when COVID-19 cases had been low, but public health officials uniformly anticipated that cases, hospitalizations, and fatalities would all increase rapidly with the onset of colder temperatures and more indoor activities. We did not last long in the hybrid model. Please consider the parallels between your decision in the fall and the decision you're making now, as more transmissible virus variants have been detected across the US and in California, and the CDC warns these variants could drive huge spikes in the number of infections. I urge the board to consider emerging evidence that school-age children can and do spread COVID-19 at significant rates, especially when community spread is high. While European countries have been a model for keeping schools open, increasing outbreaks of recently closed school in the United Kingdom, Germany, Ireland, Austria, Denmark, and the Netherlands. The district's testing resources are available only to symptomatic or exposed students and staff, but there is evidence that a majority of cases may come from asymptomatic spread. Expanded testing of all staff and students will be necessary to curb cases. While the risk of masked classroom instruction can be considered low, unmasked indoor snack or lunchtime is a much higher risk. Can these activities be limited or eliminated to improve the safety of the hybrid model? Has the district considered gating reopening to vaccine availability for teachers and staff? Is there a date by which vaccination is expected to be offered to all teachers and staff? Have any instructional models been considered besides hybrid? For example, some school districts have provided third on-site spaces for distance learning for children whose parents both need to work outside the home, which would be safer than the hybrid model in many ways. I appreciate the difficulty of your decision and your repeated emphasis on safety in your communications, but I'd like my comments to serve as a reminder that safety during this pandemic is relative and not absolute, and that every severe illness or death in our community is one too many, especially with the promise of widespread vaccination only a few months away. Ben Shefts in Soda Springs, parent of 3 TTUSD children. He adds some links for you to peruse later. Next email is from Aaron Abraham. He says, hello, Carmen, TTUSD Board of Trustees and teachers. Thank you for your continued efforts to get the kids back to school. We have spent a lot of time researching and analyzing data of in-person learning as you have. We all agree that in-person learning is the best interest of our kids, families, and the overall health of the community if we can do it safely. To come to a solution, we must take an objective look at our challenge. There's no doubt that we are seeing a surge in COVID numbers across our county and state. However, there's no science or data that shows in-person learning as a platform for COVID transmission when done in a socially responsible way. This is reported and documented by the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Anthony Fauci, and many leading scientists in our country and around the world. They realize that school provides a structured and supervised frameworks for students to gather. School districts across the nation are proof of this as they conducted in-person learning this past fall. What additional information is our community looking for to understand this science and move forward with in-person learning? It has now become very perplexing while we are not returning to school. We understand the challenges that TTUSD faced in the 3 weeks we returned to in-person learning in November. Shortage of staff, lack of substitutes, active cases, lack of daycare for staff, testing facilities, too many visitors, etc. But remember, other districts face these same challenges. From the rural to urban communities in our country, they all faced an array of obstacles that we face. These other districts overcame these tough challenges by promoting how essential teachers and in-person learning is in our community. Remember, if there was truly a scientifically proven risk of students returning to school, we would know. The opening of these school districts has been closely monitored for the last 5 months to ensure the safety of student, teacher, and community as a whole. Science, common sense, and critical thinking were the focus, not politics. Let's do the same due diligence and ensure the safety of our students, teachers, and community are all respected while we transition to in-person learning. Warm regards, Aaron, Karen, and the 619 community members who signed the Get the Kids Back to School petition on change.org. The next comment comes from Nicole Rowland. She says, dear members of the board, I write as a parent of one child in the district and one toddler at home. I write as a parent who chose to move to Truckee for their education, both in the classroom and the wide variety of outdoor education that is provided within the adventurous surroundings we live within. I share this not because I want you to know that my recommendations are informed by research and data and not politics or personal preferences. Probably like most people, I want my children to return to school. Like many in our community, I lack the support to successfully homeschool or support children in their online education. This past year, come March, has been the toughest year for all of us in my home. I witnessed a catastrophic decline in my child's abilities to learn, engage, socialize, and even communicate with me. The virtual at-home learning model has led to the loss of my income. The stress this has made on our family has been detrimental to all of us. We suffer to come up with ways to stay on task with school. The Google Meets are less and less engaging for our child, and the lack of enthusiasm with school as a whole is so disheartening. We often hear the words, I hate school, from our child who was beyond an excellent, well-behaved student prior to the school closure. We are so disappointed in our school board and our community officials who have allowed for the online learning model to go on for this long. The audacity to allow visitors and tourism to continue to rampage our little town without allowing our students back into the classroom has shown us all where our elected officials' priorities are. I'm urging you to vote to have our students back in the classroom full-time, full days, for the full week, Monday through Friday, with the social distance measures in place and safety measures our school has made. I feel comfortable and confident we can and will be making the right choice. Our children need to see their teachers and friends. They need to play, run, touch, hear, and all other senses need to be aroused for them to learn. The screen is not cutting it at all. We are in the process of exploring other school districts because our board's inability to get our kids back in the classroom We hope to stay residents within the TTUSD boundaries, but our child's education is far more important. Thank you for our time, Nicole Rowland. Next, comments from Jacqueline Diaz. She says, as the district considers permitting our kids to return to school, I urge you to open the schools 5 days a week. It is difficult to understand TTUSD's incredibly slow and tentative response to the COVID crisis, particularly compared to other school districts locally and nationally. For example, the New York City Department of Education is responsible for more than 1,800 schools and was able to send their students back full-time in August. TTUSD, on the other hand, has 9 schools, and we have only managed to let our students go to school for 6 half days. 8 hours a week of in-person instruction for our students is insufficient. The safety risks we take sending our children back to school are minimal when compared to the long-term effects that distance learning has and will continue to have on our students. Our community is going to grapple with the harsh realities of supporting our students both academically and emotionally as we recover from the past year. The longer we delay reintegration, the harder it will be to bring students back up to speed, and the deeper the emotional stress will become. The summer slide will pale in comparison. These setbacks not only affect the students' daily well-being, but it will also result in unanticipated expenses and resources for which TTUSD has not prepared. Our community is losing faith in the district. Families are moving out. It's hard to see our community open back up to visitors and normal business when our schools are still closed. The scales have tipped. In your efforts to slow the spread of the virus, scarier and more detrimental effects have presented themselves, and it is the time to fervently prioritize the well-being and education of our community's children and families. Concerned parents, Jacqueline, and teacher, and Rob Anderson, firefighter, working parents of 2 elementary-age students. The next note comes from Kristen Williams. She says, dear TTUSD School Board, I'm a parent of a 2nd grader and kindergartner at Sierra Expeditionary Learning School. I'm also a school counselor employed at a public charter school for grades preschool through 8 in Reno. The school I work at has successfully been open full-time 5 days a week since August. There are ways to safely reopen schools in Truckee. My children are suffering from missing out on in-person instruction and spending way too much time on screens. I regret not pulling my children out of TTUSD and having them enroll at the school where I work in Reno. We have to pay for daycare for our school-age children, putting a financial strain on our family. Please reopen our schools. Sincerely, Kristen Williams. The next email is from Angela Auger, and I apologize in advance for shortening her text as it is over the 3-minute mark. Dear Carmen Geisels and the TTUSD Board of Directors, we have sent out a petition to parents in the Tahoe Truckee community to show you that there is a significant interest in getting the students back in the classroom. The families strongly urge our board to reopen schools have signed the petition. In 1 week, 638 signatures were gathered in support of getting the students back into the classroom. We wanted to share this data with you and show you the petition that was created. The signatures on the petition include, but are not limited to, parents, students, medical professionals, and community members. Here is the petition for your review, and she links to it. We'll share it with the board. Please read all comments left in the comment section of the above link to the petition. The 32 comments thus far are in favor of going back to the classroom learning. It is also understood that there are some parents and staff who do not support going back to in-person learning. TTUSD has already solved this issue by offering Cohort C. The article in the petition supports that the secondary transmission of SARS-CoV-2 in schools is extremely limited, and there's another link to a pediatrics.org article, research article, it appears. This same study stated that an estimated 3 million students across the United States have no formal education since schools have been closed. The students being most affected by distance learning are the lower income, Black, Latino, and students that are already falling behind. There are many students in the district that are severely suffering from distance learning. We as a community and school district can work together to solve the roadblocks that keep us from in-person learning. Please consider reaching out to the community, parents, and medical professionals so that we can help make this happen. This petition was put together by 2 mothers of elementary school-age children who are suffering from learning through a screen and missing social emotional interactions of their teachers and peers. The petition also describes other students who are severely depressed from this form of learning. It was also stated above that the minorities and those in need of those in need of in-person education are suffering most. We are both nurses at Tahoe Forest Hospital and would never put our kids, teachers, or administrators in harm's way. The safety measures are in place now, so let's get these kids back to their desks. We contacted 12 of the 16 school districts in Placer County, we could not reach, all of which are back to school 5 days a week or in a hybrid model of learning. Seems like there are plenty of examples in our district on how to return safely. The communication between the district and parents has lacked transparency and details. We ask that you communicate the needs of the district that will allow us to open schools, keep them open, and what the plan is to get back on a regular schools schedule. The next comment is from Nubia Greninger. She says, good morning, my name is Nubia Greninger, and I have a 7-year-old daughter who just joined Cohort C at Truckee Elementary School. Even though we might choose not to send her back to in-person class, I think like many things in life, parents should have the choice to send their kids to school. So I think it is important that the schools open up on a safe basis. Thank you for reading this. The next was posted anonymously, and the writer says, on January 6, 2021, I watched the TTUSD board meeting and heard the public comments regarding getting students back to school in-person learning versus virtual learning versus hybrid. As a wife, mother, and community member for more than 20 years, I have to say that I'm ashamed of some of the members in this community. Yes, we all want to get children back in school. The law requires that our children be educated. As far as I know, the law does not require the taxpayers to provide extracurricular activities or organized sports. I realize that we are all being inconvenienced by something out of our control, but we will get through this, and it will take time, patience, and creativity by all of us. We cannot take risks that will endanger the health of the community, and especially those for whom this virus could mean death or a long-term disability. With the new strain, we are more at risk than ever. But in the meantime, I would urge all of us to stop beating on the administration and the board to make this less inconvenient for us. Their job is to educate children the best they can under the dire circumstances while using common sense to protect the teachers, staff, and families. Our job as parents is to raise our children. It is not the taxpayers' job. We have the opportunity to teach our children some valuable lessons. Minimizing and complaining about what needs to be done to protect our students, teachers, staff, and community is not helpful. If we feel we must socialize the children or provide activities, then take responsibility as parents and do something about it yourself. The next comment's from Paul Navpour. He says, a few questions, comments for today's meeting. Last meeting, board's directive was that schools can't reopen yet as cases are still high, with ski resorts being open and so many out-of-town visitors here. Has the district thought about petitioning to the governor to put kids' needs first? Our community now has been out of school and not school sports for a year, minus the 2 to 4 days it was reopened. Yesterday's teen substance abuse Zoom meeting clearly showed that drug use has increased since the closure of the schools. This is primarily due to kids being out of school, no programs to keep them engaged, etc. Clearly, we are seeing a bad trend here that will hurt this community for years to come. Perhaps another reason for allowing kids to get back to school safely. Other communities and countries have put the needs of their kids first. Thank you, Paul Navapur. The next comment from Becky Jackson Rivard. She says, hello, my daughter is in 3rd grade at Glenshire Elementary. I would like to implore the board and the district vote to return to school full-time. Her teacher has done an incredible job teaching virtually, but I know that she would benefit so much by returning to in-person learning. The hybrid model for her was basically taking a step back. She had less learning and less teacher interaction with the hybrid model than she did with 100% virtual. It is too much pressure to put on working parents to have them be this teacher solo 2 days a week. Grass Valley Charter was able to go back 5 days a week by doing AM and PM cohorts. Why can't TTUSD look into this? Or better yet, skip hybrid and go back full time. I realize that you have a lot of factors to consider and appreciate you taking the time to read this comment. Best regards, Becky. Heather Williams writes, good afternoon. Writing in regards to students resuming or not resuming school. I certainly think safety is important for students and staff. I work as a nurse consultant for a nursing home chain, so I'm definitely not the person that thinks the pandemic isn't a concern or that it shouldn't be taken seriously. However, I also think that school is an essential part of our kids' lives and that safety measures in place for masks and distancing should allow them to return in-person school with minimal risk. My kids are learning okay virtually because my spouse and I have the good fortune to be able to work remotely right now, but it's far from ideal. We can't always put our work aside to help them. We have 2 different grades and 4 people's schedules, and the kids are lonely and sick of staring at screens. They're more easily distracted and don't do their best work. Many families aren't that lucky and aren't able to help at all and or are relying on childcare options that are less safe than in-person school would be. Vaccines are being administered, cases and hospitalizations are dropping. I'm comfortable with kids returning to the hybrid model. It's also not ideal, but at least provides some normalcy and some relief for parents while still being a safe option. I know staffing and testing were issues that hopefully have been resolved. Thank you, Heather Williams. The next comes from Joanna Close, TTUSD parent and spouse. To the TTUSD leadership, school board, and Tahoe Truckee community, I'm the parent of a TTUSD third grader and spouse of a teacher. I think we can agree on one thing. We all want our students back in school. We all understand the benefits of in-person learning. However, decisions during these unprecedented times must be made only after careful consideration of the myriad risks and benefits to students, families, staff, and the community at large. I started this letter to urge you to hold off on returning teachers and students to in-person learning at this time, to wait for the community COVID rates to reflect a decline and then sustain leveling, to wait for more information about the new, more transmissible variants, to wait for vaccinations for teachers and staff, as well as for community members at increased risk of COVID complications, particularly those living in intergenerational homes. But as I write this, I found myself instead with urgent pleas for more information, transparency, and accountability. The communication from Superintendent Geisels has been regular, however, it has lacked concrete information. Her recent messages have left me with more questions and answers, more concerns than comforts. Geisels presents with a myopic focus on returning students to the classroom with a tone deafness to the diversity of wishes and comfort levels of the community as a whole. Geisels has repeatedly stated that the district is using, quote, safety as a guiding principle, quote, however, it does not define safety in the context of the COVID pandemic. What specific criteria is the district using to decide whether or not to return our staff and students to the classroom? For example, what community case rates are deemed safe? Based on the metrics shared on January 7th, the Placer County 7-day case rates were at 5 per 100,000 when schools entered hybrid in October. In November, when we pivoted back to remote learning, the case rates were 18.6 per 100,000. As of January 12th, the rates were 49.2 per 100,000. That's a near tenfold increase. And what about test positivity rates? Although this has been a common metric reported in other regions and used for decision making, I've not seen that reflected locally. Geisels reported on January 14th that today's school board meeting will review the latest COVID data to evaluate feasibility of safety reopening in hybrid. I implore you to make transparent the specific COVID data by which you deem it feasible to safely reopen in hybrid. I understand there are many variables at play here, and it's the public's right to know the measures by which you are making important decisions. What percentage of staff can be under quarantine while the district continues operations, such as classroom learning, transportation, food services, etc.? What are the metrics by which the district considers itself to have access to timely COVID testing? What about the differences between elementary, middle, and high schools? While elementary classrooms can easily be segregated, thus making contact tracing and quarantining relatively easy, middle and high schools do not have the same luxury. And I apologize for stopping here at the 3-minute mark. The next is from Erica Stuckey-Allstott, and she says, having had COVID-19, which I contracted while at school, wearing a mask, I have a new understanding of the disease. My young son also contracted it from me. Kids can get it, and yes, they do have symptoms which are very scary. I'd hate to have to watch another parent see their own child sick. That said, President Biden had a press conference today with his new press secretary. She was asked a question about President Biden's recommendation on schools reopening. The press secretary responded by saying that the president will be rolling out a recommendation based on percentages of teachers vaccinated prior to teachers returning to school. Will the district be following, watching, listening to these new recommendations, or continue to push forward with plans? Thank you, Erica Olstad. Excuse me. The next comment is from Jessica Catt. She writes, Dear Superintendent Geisel and our TTUSD school board members, we all know and understand that this is an incredibly challenging and unprecedented time for our community, including the parents, students, and staff in our district. I'm constantly listening and following to health officials and mandates, educating myself about the pandemic and specifically schools reopening safely. There is now ample data to show that elementary school transmission is low, and it's time to reopen our schools and follow the agreed upon protocols. The superintendent, school board, administration, and the teachers union have all worked so hard to put measures and precautions in place. I've listened to each board meeting since August, but outside the brief information delivered at these meetings, there's been a communication failure. There's a lack of detailed metrics and data providing in writing to explain Superintendent Geisel's decision-making process, as well as limited information on COVID-19 dashboard, especially in comparison to neighboring Washoe County School District. Regular surveys need to be sent out to understand our community needs and priorities, including questions on transportation and childcare instead of making assumptions. Town hall meetings need to be scheduled. Additionally, there has to be a change in the school board meeting public comment section. Our comments are simply read or listened to during this time. Why are comments not directly responded to and or answered? Sometimes the answers to comments have already been presented and do not need further discussion, but the lack of dialogue as well as direct response and acknowledgement is frustrating. Finally, when will the public discussion begin about reopening our schools to 5 days per week? This question was asked multiple times at the previous board meeting, and there has been no information in district communications. What is the protocol for taking this next step? I hope a detailed answer is provided soon, and I sincerely hope our schools reopen next week. Kind regards, Jessica Catt, parent of a Tahoe Lake Elementary second grader. Next comment is from Sione Lanes. Dear Superintendent, Board, and TTUSD staff, we would like our schools to open for our children's mental health. We understand the staffing shortage and the seriousness of COVID. We feel the district did a terrific job with COVID safety measures, and we would choose that risk over deepening mental health issues for the children. Sione Lanes, mom to 2 TTUSD students. And the next public comment is from Yvonne Logan. Dear school board members and Superintendent Geisel, thank you for your service to our community. I found out today that our school board wrote to Governor Newsom about Placer County's vaccine distribution, or lack thereof, on behalf of our district staff. I appreciate your efforts so much, although it seems at this time that it has fallen upon deaf ears. I want to urge you to continue to advocate for our district staff vaccines in order to keep everyone safe. I truly believe that this is the only way we will be able to keep schools open once we return. At this time, I do not believe that it is safe to return to in-person learning. One reason is that the reporting of cases to the district is not being done faithfully. The numbers on which you are basing your reopening criteria are not accurate. Another reason is that quarantine protocols in place for students and staff are not stringent enough. For example, if a member of a household is tested positive for COVID, other members of the household are free to return to school. This is unacceptable. As I mentioned in my last communication, I have yet to be offered regular testing for COVID, which I believe should be a bare minimum considering vaccines are not yet on the table. Finally, I'd like to see the district planning for the vaccines rollout to our staff so that it can be conducted in an orderly and safe manner. Thank you for your attentive ears. Yvonne Logan, two-way bilingual immersion TK teacher, Kings Beach Elementary. And that concludes the written public comments. Switch over to the recorded, and I'll remind the public that you have a phone number now, and probably at some point we'll move to the phone line. That's 582-2730, and you're able to record your comments there.
And Ed, thank you for your yeoman's work there. I know that's not easy reading nonstop like that, so thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, let's refresh the page here. One moment. And I will apologize. A few of these, I won't be able to say the names to them. They came in and we weren't able to grab the names, but we do have the comment. So we'll, for the board summary, we'll make sure that the names are in the comment for you. The first comes from Sarah Somerville.
I believe and show support to have our children back in school 5 days a week. If need be, to shorten the time of the school day, but have them back in school 5 days a week. There's so many concerns that I have with the children's mindset. There's concerns I have with their health. They will be safe in school. If we can go to restaurants and other activities in our community, our children can be back at school. We need this.
Okay, and that concludes Sarah's comment. The next is from Laura Kosich.
Hi, my name is Laura Kosich. I'm a local business owner here in Truckee. My daughter goes to Glenshire Elementary in the 2nd grade. I've seen drastic changes in her personality from being isolated. I think the safest place for these children is in school. I think it's imperative that you get these kids back in school ASAP. I think them going in till 12:30 in the afternoon is ridiculous. They're there already. They should stay a full day, and we should get back in session full time. These kids are lacking education now. It's going to take them a long time at my daughter's age to catch up to what she needs to be at Bisons on her testing. I'm disappointed in our district. I understand the safety measures. We need to make better choices for our children's education. Straightforward, period, to the point. These kids need to be back in school. You need to be stricter on how they are protected to get them there. And that's my opinion. Thank you for your time.
The next comment is from Devin and Bryce Baker.
Hi, this is Bryce and Devin Baker. Bryce is 7 years old. Devin is 5 years old, and they want to go back to school.
The next comment is from Gudrun Dieball. Apologize for the pronunciation there.
Public comment for the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Education Trustees Study Session, January 20th, 2021. Agenda item 8.0, Superintendent's Report. Submitted by Gudrun Dibdahl, a Truckee resident. Thank you to the TTUSD leadership as you plan and prepare for a safe and sustainable reopening of our schools. Yesterday, January 19th, 2021, the California Safe and Successful Schools team lead Naomi S. Bardich, MD, MAS, California Health and Human Services Agency, issued a letter to local health officers and county superintendents of schools regarding Safe Schools for All plan and near-term issues regarding school reopenings. She wrote on behalf of the team to introduce the team and to highlight a few key issues they've heard regarding schools that are currently open or plan to reopen in the coming weeks. The update reflects the most current evidence and science about operating schools in person in a way that keeps students and staff safe. The letter includes clarification on school reopening. Quote, if the county is in purple tier on the day the school plans to reopen for in-person instruction, the school must wait until eligible again, close quote. Please see the link below to access the letter. How will the letter addressing key near-term issues impact and influence the TTUSD reopening plan? I remain concerned that children are often asymptomatic but are capable of unknowingly spreading virus. What plans are in process to provide COVID-19 vaccines for teachers and school staff?
The next is from Chris Close.
As the mother of a teacher and the grandmother of a student, I'm very concerned with the issue of schools being open or not during the pandemic crisis. As a retired teacher, I'm well aware of the benefit of students being in school and of the fact that some students will do much better than others in an online environment. However, I also believe that the moving back and forth between online learning and some form of in-person learning is extremely disruptive. When the schools briefly opened in the fall, it seemed apparent that keeping up with the challenge of testing students and staff and dealing with the quarantines required when staff were exposed was not sustainable. I monitor the cases in the area daily. The district website doesn't reflect what I see there, which is a steady stream of new cases. The cases per 100,000 and the positivity rate has had both Placer and Nevada counties in the purple tier for quite a while now, and there's a long way to go to change that. Finally, with vaccines starting to become available, the idea that the district would even consider moving to any form of in-person instruction seems unfathomable and irresponsible. The district personnel need the opportunity to access this protection. This is a community problem. The community needs to work together to get the case rates low enough that having schools open isn't going to cause a spiraling up of cases that will affect us all. I urge you to maintain the current status quo of online learning. Give the community time to get vaccinated and for the case rates to come down. With case rates as high as they are, we need to each do our part to get them down before we create opportunities to continue the surge we are currently in the midst of. Thank you.
The next comment is from Wendy Mastriani.
Hi, I wanted to make a comment for the board meeting tonight. I'm a registered nurse. I work in the intensive care unit, and my understanding is that there's a consideration to make teachers go back to in-person teaching. I think that's a bad idea. I don't understand why you wouldn't wait till all the teachers in the state are vaccinated against COVID-19. There's definitely a risk versus benefit, and I think the risk is much higher than the benefit of going back to in-person teaching before everyone's vaccinated. I think that the community needs to be patient. We have a new administration that hopefully will ramp up vaccine production, and we need to make sure everybody's safe, because I've firsthand seen what this virus can do to people, and not just old people, to people in their 50s, to people in their 40s. So I think we need to protect our teachers and thereby protect our communities. Thanks. Bye.
The next comment's from a 6th grader.
Hi, this is Alex Wolfman. I'm a 6th grade student at Alder Creek Middle School, and we really want to go back to school.
The next comment's from Reagan.
Hello, this is Ethan Wolfman, and I was at ATMS Alder Creek Middle School, and I would really like to go back to school.
Okay, and again, I apologize. The next comments I don't have names for, but we'll get those to you in the summary.
Our kids need to go back to school for their mental health.
Next comment.
I just wanted to encourage the board to get these kids back to school quickly. I can just see the mental toll it's taking on them, depression setting in, motivation all-time low. I'm concerned, and I just think it's really important for both the educators and the students alike and the parents to get back to some normalcy as quickly as we can. Thank you.
And the next comment.
Please let me back in the classroom. I do not like virtual learning anymore. Thank you.
And the next one.
In order to open up TTUSD safely, I definitely feel that
2-week testing is okay. 1 week would be preferred, or to me, the best case scenario. And I think before school even convenes and they go back hybrid, that that first test should be done before school opens and have testing sites at each of the individual TTUSD school sites. And then also too, I think that it's really important that our teachers start getting vaccinated. When I hear things like Squaw Valley ski patrollers are getting vaccinated over teachers, I find that absolutely egregious. So I think that we have to fight to get those vaccinations for our teachers as soon as possible. And obviously, the best case scenario is having them vaccinated before they start, or have them at least get their first shot before school starts. Those are my comments. Thank you. And I know everyone's trying to do their best in trying to open up our schools safely. Hopefully with the new administration, there'll be more help and funding on the way. Thank you. Bye.
And the next comment?
Item number 7.1. Dear community, in school we teach children about empathy, what it is, how to have it, and how to show it. The simplest definition is to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to think and feel what it would be like to be in their situation. Have you thought about the school secretary and her situation, her family?
Sorry, that got cut off.
General comment concerning the opening of school. My name is Carolyn Pretzer. I live in Placer County. I pay taxes. I'm a retired teacher. I respectfully request you do not send any school personnel, bus drivers, teachers, whatever, back to the classroom with the children without their vaccinations. Vaccinations are here, and some first-line employees have received them. Firefighters.
I apologize for that getting cut off.
I don't want the school teachers to have to teach until they've had their vaccinations. It'll be a long time before children are vaccinated, but we need the teachers for their safety and the safety of their families. So all school personnel, bus drivers, teachers, whomever, get vaccinated before they return to work. Thank you.
And the next comment?
Hi, my name is Carrie Payton. I was just wanting to learn more about what the specific things are and the steps that Superintendent mentioned about getting to 5 days a week. Thanks.
And friends, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. And thank you for everyone who shared their thoughts, especially the kids. Okay, board members, this isn't a voting item. This is a decision that Superintendent Geisels will be moving forward, but I'm very interested if any board members have comments at this time. Now is the opportunity.
I think I'm gonna just say my piece and I'll be good. I know that everyone has spent a great deal of time trying to get us moving forward, and I know there's so many stumbling blocks, and I am the first person to say that kids should be 5 days a week back in school, and I think I alluded to that. It's not going to be an easy process, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I know that every situation that has been expressed and explained, and there are hardships all over, and there's no easy answer. Personally, I would love to have our kids back in school, and I am a teacher as well. I'm a ski team program director, and I understand what Carmen is going through in terms of having to make a decision for a whole group of people that you have no control over. And I I appreciate the comments that say, a restaurant can be open, but our schools can't be open. We cannot control a restaurant. We cannot control the state's plans. And for me, as a school board member, I just feel that I cannot go forward without at least saying that I am not feeling comfortable in the sense of opening our schools at this point, without all of the vaccinations with more control over the outside. Our schools are the safest they possibly could be, and they are the safest place for our kids. We just can't control what happens outside that. And me, as a entity that is supposedly one of the largest groups of people in our district, we have a huge group of people that we are responsible for. I just don't think that I am comfortable saying that I'm willing to go back to hybrid at this point. I would go to 5 days, but no. But I just need to say that I'm again, Carmen, I know that your team has done unsurmountable amount of work, and this is a barge. You can't change the direction we're on without just going back to square one. And I just really implore the rest of the community to realize that it's not our decision to do hybrid or to not do hybrid or not go back to school. It's just, there are so many things outside our control that we are trying to do what's best for our community, and it's not necessarily in our control. So to say that we're making a poor choice for your family is heartfelt. Like, I don't feel that we're making a choice for a family. I'm thinking that, as President Biden said today, that, it's unity. We're trying to do this as a team, and we're not necessarily going to make all the right choices for everybody. But if you look at what we are trying to do to make us succeed, we want our schools open. There's no doubt in my mind that you all, and all the public that's listening, they have to know that we want our kids in school. There's no way we don't. But I just feel that I have to at least say that I'm not thinking that we're there at this very moment, and I am doing everything we possibly can to get ourselves there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Other board comments?
Well, I'll go. I would agree with Dee Dee's comments that we're doing everything possible, and I'm a little sad to hear that we're losing the confidence of some of our families. I know that in leadership, sometimes we are called to make difficult decisions, and this is one of those things where almost, you could almost say everyone is right. Whatever your beliefs are, whatever your needs are, whatever your families or businesses are going through, that's the lens. This is a new thing for us. We've never navigated this as a people nor as a school district. So when we were open a few months back as hybrid, I went to, I think, 4 different schools, and I felt very, very confident sending my kids there. The way the classrooms were set up, I wish that I could make our adult staff at the sites, feel better, but they're adults, and, they can speak for themselves. I'm speaking for our students, and I'm telling you that I felt comfortable having my daughter there. And I look forward to getting back to 5 days all day. But for right now, I'm thankful and grateful that our district has had the resources and the commitment from our staff and our district staff, as well as our site staff and our teachers, to move to hybrid in 2 days. Baby steps is kind of that compromise that makes this transition feel okay for me, feel good for me. And I just, want to respectfully accept all of your comments and all of your feedback. And, I hope that those of you who are in disagreement with us going back to school on the 1st, that, you're entitled to that. And I respect that feeling that you're having or decisions that you're making with what you want to do with your children instead of sending them to hybrid. I just wanted to say, you know, that really this board as a whole, we care about our students, we care about our teachers, we care about the adults in those sites and in our district office. And yeah, you know, we're doing the best that we know how, and I feel confident supporting Ms. Geisels and the district office team and the school site teams with receiving students back in school. Thank you.
Galen, any wish to make any comments?
Yes. It's very disturbing listening to all of these comments from parents and reading all these messages and being accused of all kinds of things. It's just disturbing. So I'll start there. But here's how I'm thinking. After Thanksgiving, after the public decided that, oh, my bubble can get a little bigger, I'll include a few more of my family. And yeah, it'll be okay to socialize with some friends who I know. I mean, things just went crazy. And then it just got worse from there after Christmas, after the Christmas holidays and New Year's. And now we're at a high plateau, it seems. And it doesn't seem like anyone has gotten the message on how to improve this. It's not going down. We see little blips here and there, but there's no dramatic drop in half. And meanwhile, the positivity rates are high, which give you an indication that there are more cases out there than we're testing for. So it's worse than we know. I've seen several studies from parents who have sent emails to me that say students are just fine in school. They don't spread it. They're not going to be damaged if they catch this disease. And I read the studies, and many times they don't say that at all. But for some reason, parents believe that's what they want to believe, I guess. And that's very disturbing. You need to know that I read your references as well as your words, and I answer most of them myself. Now we have this new, more infectious COVID virus in the United States, in California, more infectious. I mean, can you imagine this getting worse? Well, what are we worried about here? We're worried about how our students are doing, how they're doing mentally, socially. I'll share with you that they're doing pretty well reading and math. Distance learning has been pretty good for them. We'll have some data for that, I hope, pretty soon. But these other issues are real issues, and so they need to be addressed at some time. We'd like to address them right now. My personal feeling is I don't think we should risk our teachers or our staff until they've all been vaccinated. That might be another month and a half, another 6 weeks. That's what I would like. But you heard these parents, I mean, talk about a siege on the Capitol. There may be a siege on the district office. And I'm a bit sensitive to that too. I've been assured that our teachers with any kind of comorbidity situations will be protected. They'll be doing distance learning. They won't be in a classroom. They'll be protected. That's important to me. As I mentioned, overwhelming comments tonight from parents saying, accusing, and that stuff really annoys me, but nevertheless, I hear the message. So we have a strong plan. Superintendent Chief Learning Officer Geisel and her team has put together a very strong plan for safety, for backup plans when things go astray. And so I'm just willing to, okay, let's go on with that, but let's keep our eyes wide open and let's make sure we get vaccinations absolutely as quickly as possible. So I don't feel good about it, but I support the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen.
I'll
Kirsten?
just jump in real quick and just, everybody's comments tonight are really compelling. And the comments that we received from the public tonight also extremely emotional, and everybody's suffering is palatable. So, I think it's important that even though we're all in so much pain and the suffering is profound, that we are currently victims of failed public policy completely out of our control. And when you're in an emotional state, you try to look for someone to blame. And I think that we have become the focus of a lot of that blame. But what everyone needs to really understand is that it's so much bigger than us. And this problem is a global pandemic. As educators, as school board members, we want nothing more than to get the kids back in school. That's why we're school board members. That's why we volunteer our time, because we value education and we value the role that it plays in children's lives. So I just urge everyone to really try to have some empathy and understand that we are parents as well, and we know how hard it is to watch your own child suffer. We know at a very real level how much the children are suffering. So I have tremendous faith in Carmen Geisels and the team that she has assembled, and the degree to which everyone is dedicated to the common goal of getting kids and staff back on campuses through the lens of safety. And we are determined to make this happen. So everyone's comments tonight, we heard every single word, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we meet the goal of getting kids and staff back in school, but we can't risk lives, and we can't put people in harm's way. So that's a very, very, it's a tightrope. It's a very fine line that we're walking right now. But we're here for you guys. We're working for you guys. We're working for this community. And our teachers want nothing more than to get back in the classroom to teach your beautiful, smiling children. And that is going to happen. Everybody just has to have patience.
Thank you, Kirsten. So I know this is a little bit unprecedented, but we need to take a short break from the meeting right now. So if we could have a 5-minute break. It is 6:59, so let's call it 7:05. We will return and we'll finish out this section. So thank you very much. If everyone could mute, I'd appreciate it. It's 7:05, so we're going to come back to the meeting. Are we all here? Okay, so we had some late public comment come in, and that's why I wanted to take a break to figure out how we were going to handle that. So I want to be clear that we're going to be a little bit flexible this evening on late public comment. But for our next meeting and all future meetings, we will have a very strict cutoff time for that. But because we didn't for this particular meeting and we're winging it through having these virtual meetings, we're doing the very best we possibly can, just like everything else we're doing right now through COVID. So, Mr. Hilton, I understand we have a couple of additional public comments, and I'm going to allow those to be read for 3 minutes maximum, and then we will move back to board comments and superintendent's comments, and then we'll move on. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. So I have 2 written comments and 1 audio comment. So I will read those now. This one is a public comment from the Tahoe Truckee Education Association. We watched the school board meeting tonight just as you did, and we were surprised to find out that TTUSD and the school board has decided to reopen for hybrid a week and a half from now on February 1st. TTA was not consulted nor notified ahead of time about this decision. At previous school board meetings dealing with reopening, TTUSD staff presented a local COVID data snapshot, which did not happen tonight. The previous school board meeting mentioned that metrics and public health guidance would be used to decide when to open. So we thought it was important for you to have the complete information as we talk about this very important issue. Today's Placer County 7-day average case rate was 41.5 per 100,000 people and a positivity rate of over 10%. And they provide a link to look at the data. This is just dramatically higher than the 7 cases per 100,000 required for reopening in the fall, and also in excess of the 28 cases per 100,000 required for reopening schools that had not yet reopened based on the January 14th Safe Schools for All plan released by Governor Newsom. We are over double that case rate of the most permissive published statewide public health guidance provided for safe reopening. According to this guidance, schools that have not yet reopened previously are not eligible to reopen for in-person instruction above 28 cases per 100,000. Why should the fact that we opened previously suddenly negate this public health guidance? We understand everyone is tired of this pandemic. It is inconvenient. It is exhausting for everyone, particularly the parents of children. We know teachers are exhausted as well. But this virus is insidious and does not care that we are tired of it. It infects and sickens people throughout our community regardless. Many of you know friends, students, parents, and staff who have been infected, and some who have unfortunately passed. The high levels of community transmission, combined with the presence of a more transmissible variant becoming common in California, is not the time to ignore thoroughly researched public health guidance and reopen schools. TTA members, by and large, are ready to line up and receive the vaccine so that they can safely work with students they love. But the vaccines aren't ready yet, despite how hard the board and Chief Learning Officer Geisels has been working on it. The TTA position is that TTUSD should not reopen for in-person instruction until we are under 28 cases per 100,000 per day as an average daily case rate as recommended by Governor Newsom. We must use specific, reasonable, transparent metrics supported by well-researched public health guidance, not personal intuition, anecdotes, and personal desires from those who are not public health experts. We all understand that in-person school is better than distance learning. Everyone prefer to be back in school with their students. But right now we feel under these conditions, it isn't safe to do so. The Tahoe Truckee Education Association surveys given over the past week overwhelmingly support this idea. Also, we feel that all families should be polled before moving forward. Currently, we are only hearing the voices of those who have signed petitions or submitted public comment. We must continue to uphold the moral stance, be patient, and stand up for our health and the health of our students and the community. And we had another public comment written by Stacy Rodarte. She says, "Dear community, in school we teach children about empathy, what it is, how to have it, and how to show it. The simplest definition is to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to think and feel what it would be like to be in their situation. Have you thought about the school secretary and her situation, her family, her health? Have you thought about the cafeteria worker? How about the bus driver? What about the teacher that is a new mother? How about the teacher who lost his father to COVID recently? I can guarantee that every single person that works for our schools, works there because they love children. More than anyone in the world, they know what children need socially, emotionally, and academically. And I can also guarantee that every single one of those people has a broken heart from not seeing children, hearing their voices, and interacting with them every day. As a mother of 3, my heart breaks, but I must take this opportunity to teach them that life is really hard. Our circumstances cannot be our foundation. We need to be who we are, regardless of the situation. What we think and what we feel is real. The disappointment is real. The frustration is real. The emptiness is real. When we validate how we feel, then step outside and put ourselves in someone else's shoes, sometimes it helps. We can see that we are not alone in the struggle. We can see that others may have even harder situations. And we can also still experience joy, knowing some other kids somewhere else get to go to school every day, get to play their sports, and get to experience life the way it used to be. We can find hope in others. Having empathy doesn't always mean putting ourselves in the shoes of someone that's struggling. Having empathy also means finding joy for others that are experiencing better days. Teaching our children perspective in good times and bad is like a beautiful lesson. It is a lesson that's hard to teach when everything is right in this world. Let's take these opportunities to teach our kids true empathy, true perspective. It's our role as adults in this country, this state, and this area to have a growth mindset and to lead by example. Our children are watching. My hope and prayer is that when we come out on the other side of this, I can be proud of the growth that I have made as a human. I can look back and reflect at the deep and rooted humans my children have become. It hasn't been and won't be easy as we continue down this unsettled and uncertain path, but really life never is. My husband and I both teach for TTUSD. Our 3 children have always been TTUSD students. We wholeheartedly support our school board and Superintendent Carmen Geisels. We may not always agree with every decision, but we do know every single one of those leaders loves children, loves people, and loves serving our community. They are tasked with making decisions, taking into account every stakeholder, every dynamic, and every possibility. Let's teach our children to respect those around us, whether we agree with them or not. Let's teach them to have empathy for others, whether it feels good or not. Let's teach our children and ourselves to step back and take a look at things from a new perspective. We can and will persevere. Thank you. Stacy Rodarte, mother and TTUSD teacher. Then we have one voice public comment that came in.
Board members, thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I'm speaking not on behalf of any group. I'm speaking solely as an individual with an interest in this community who's lived here since 1988. I have a very severe immune deficiency disorder, and so I have a direct interest in whether or not you create a system that would ultimately result in super spreader events. And as we know, the mutated version, the UK mutation, is very easy to transmit and does affect young people more adversely than the initial strain. And so it would be most unwise and ill-advised to reopen schools in any way, shape, or form until we have the vaccine throughout the community and herd immunity is at least partially, if not fully established. One life lost is not worth the risk that you'd be imposing upon students, teachers, staff, and other members of the community who will be interacting with those individuals. I ask you to use that as your scale of balance when looking at whether or not you will open schools at this juncture. Please do not.
And that really does conclude public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. So, first of all, I want to recognize Valerie Simpson's kitten, who is entertaining us all. The best. I love it. It's wonderful. It's good. Don't take her away. Secondly, I want to recognize what Stacy Rodart said about compassion. And thank you, Stacy. Very well put. and so appreciated, especially today of all days. And then I want to address the TTEA concerns. Superintendent Geisels, I'm going to ask you questions, even though this isn't really questions, but board comments. So do we have an MOU with TTEA that addresses being in hybrid learning and that it may change to fully distance and then back into hybrid? Is that something that already exists?
We have an MOU that states that the district it decides if there's a need to transition students' family to return back to school physically. It can be done according to CDP public health guidance. And we also have in that language that it's important that we have a plan to transition back to in-person learning as soon as it is feasible and safe to do so. So we have a signed MOU with TTEA in that respect, yes. I also want to address, I can understand the concerns of the teachers, and I understand the fear is real. The fear is real for everyone. I myself have lost friends and family members to COVID in other states. I also am concerned that I need to restate that it's important for me for the board to know that we have a scheduled informal meeting next Tuesday with TTA. And in that meeting, it was my plan to discuss the COVID safety plan that we are developing as a district, to present it to TTEA and CSCA at a meeting next week for their information. It is not a bargainable plan. It's just for their information as a courtesy. We also have a plan to present the plan to a parent advisory group, which is the Superintendent's Advisory Council. So next week was our meeting to do that. I'm concerned that we had a meeting last Tuesday with TTEA to discuss plans, and then I have heard about this survey third hand and fourth hand, but I've never been formally given any input or as far as any concerns about the survey. So I'm going to address that at the informal with TTEA to see how we can collaborate. But we do have a signed memo of understanding in that respect. And it is not our intent, the district's intent, to put anyone in harm's way. But what we are trying to do is focus on our students and what's best for our students at this time. The hybrid model has small cohorts. We have class sizes of maybe 4 to 6 to 10, and even at the middle school and high school level. So we are gradually coming back. We understand that it's safe to do so in that respect. And when we do plan 5-day in-person instruction, we will sit at the table with both bargaining units to discuss the impact of these working conditions. I myself want nothing more than our teachers to be vaccinated. At the same time, we have to start somewhere. And it's not that we are not listening to our teachers and the union. It is that we have been talking to them constantly about that. So we will continue an open line of communication. We'll meet with them next Tuesday. We'll show them the COVID safety plan that we're developing, that we're required to by CDPH guidelines. And we'll also talk about the other requirements from CDPH guidelines that we have to implement. There are some changes. So I would hope that TTA is listening and that they understand that. And we will keep moving forward. And of course, without a doubt, our goal is 5-person instruction, and we will be at the table with them to discuss that. But that's all I have to say. Sorry.
Thank you. And I'd like to make a comment. I've heard this from actually not just TTTA, but a couple of other comments talked about, oh, let's pick this one metric and make that metric the metric that will tell us whether or not we go back to school. And I have to admit that while I am by far any kind of public health expert, I've spent the last 10 months immersed in this issue, and I actually do not believe that there's a single metric that will tell us what we need to do. I believe that there are multiple variables that we have addressed as a school district that are allowing me to feel a comfort level that it makes sense to go back to hybrid learning. And we also are in a super complex, so the TTEA and others have talked about, the case rate positivity, or the case rate per 100,000, the governor picked that out. But as everyone knows, we're in a very complex situation there, in that the western side of both of our counties, and remember, we're actually in 3, but let's just talk about 2, the western sides are very different than the eastern sides of our counties, and we don't have excellent numbers. And so are we making some decisions without all of the perfect data? Yes, we are. And that's the situation that we're unfortunately in. But in looking at all of the mitigations and watching, for me at least, watching the patterns that have been happening 2 weeks ago, I was concerned that we're going to have the surge on the surge. We haven't seen that. We've continued and enhanced our mitigations to allow the kids to go back to school. And like Superintendent Geisels, no one's more mad, in a polite term, about the situation with vaccinations, because I want our education staff vaccinated, and I've been working my off to try to get that to happen. But irrespective of that, I support the idea of going back into hybrid, and I will support a 5-day-a-week schedule when we have vaccinations on board. For me, that's the cutover. So that's my comments. I appreciate everyone's passion. I plea for everyone's compassion. There is no pandemic handbook that we just opened up 10 months ago to deal with this. We're doing our level best to do what's right for the kids. That's what we've been about in this district from the time this school board formed as this team, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So that's my comments. I don't know if any other board members need to or feel that they would like to re-comment. And I'm sorry I'm looking back and forth to 2 screens, but that's what I have for this till the meeting. Okay. Thank you. We will be reopening in hybrid on February 1st. K-12. Thank you so much, Superintendent Geisels.
You're welcome, President Zurich.
Okay, let me get my other device out here. I have to get back to where we are on the agenda. So we have 2 resolutions this evening we're going to consider. These have to do with pre-qualifications for contractors. The first of which is resolution number 10. It's a pre-qualification process for prime contractors. Superintendent Geisels.
Yes, staff is asking that you approve the resolution 10-2020-2021, Truckee Unified School District adopting pre-qualification process, including the questionnaire, rating systems, and appeals process for prime contractors pursuant to Public Contract Code 2011.5 and 2011.6. Mr. Rivera is on hand to provide any additional information if you should need that.
Do board members have questions on this item? Would someone like to make a motion on this resolution? Dee Dee, we don't have your, there you go.
There you go. I'm like, it wouldn't come off. I will make a motion to approve resolution, and I think it's got to go back 9.1, resolution 10.
I'll second.
It's on the wrong one.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurich?
Yes.
Thank you.
And second, we have a second pre-qualification process for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors.
Yes. Make it that. And again, this is a public code contract, which requires school districts to have first-tier mechanical, plumbing, and electrical subcontractors to submit a pre-qualification for specified projects and state funding eligibility. So staff is asking the board to approve Resolution 11-2021, Tahoe Truckee Unified School District, adopting pre-qualification process for mechanical, engineering, and plumbing contractors pursuant to the same public contract codes. And Mr. Rivera is on hand if you have any additional questions.
Board questions. Public comment, and I failed on 9.1 to ask for public comment. Mr. Hilton, did we have public comment on 9.1?
Yeah, there was no public comment on either of these items.
Okay, thank you. My sincere apologies there. So would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 9.2.
I'll second.
Lupita?
Sorry, Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Surek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have donations from our amazingly generous community. The first is from the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for our STEP program.
Yes. Mr. Jeff Santos is on hand to talk about in detail the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation's donation to the STEP program. Santos?
Thank you, Superintendent Geisels and board members. Just to recap, the STEP program is our infant and toddler program ran by amazing staff next to Sierra High School. It's a program for teen parents as well as staff and community members with infant and toddlers. There is an anonymous, they've asked to be anonymous donor to the foundation for $2,000 to support the STEP program with reading supplies, any supplies in the classroom enrichment activities as well. So this will go a long way. So thank you to our donor and the foundation and the amazing staff of the STEP program.
Couldn't agree more about the STEP program. Such a wonderful program we have. Any board questions? Public comment on this item?
No comments on this item.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation donation 10.1 and also support the amazing STEP program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the donation, and I will second.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Surek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to our anonymous donor. You are amazing. Next, we have a donation from Mountain Home Center for snowboard helmets for Truckee High School.
Yes, the Mountain Home Center has donated snowboard helmets for Truckee High School. This generous donation values at $1,082.50 for POC helmets for the Truckee High School snowboard team.
Superintendent Geisels, those are POC helmets.
Sorry.
We're just breaking you in, madam. We're just breaking you in.
Oh, yes, you are. Yes, yes. Duly noted. Thank you.
Yeah, really, in more ways than one this school year.
Sorry, I have to find some humor somewhere.
Yeah.
Any board questions? A public comment on this item. A motion, please.
I was just going to make a quick comment that I'm hoping that the North Tahoe team can borrow them at some point. Just because.
After
it's only fair.
For COVID, they'll be disinfected.
After we disinfect, I will make a motion to approve the donation 10.2.
Thank you, Mountain Home Center. I'll second.
Okay, Member Levac,
Aye.
Member Hennessy,
Aye.
Member Driller,
Aye.
Clerk Larson,
Yes.
President Surek.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then we have 3 grants, again from our amazing community. The first is from the Truckee Tahoe community, or the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for distance learning.
Yes, Ms. Simpson is here to talk about in details the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation's grant in partnership with us. She has the details, and I'm sure she would love to share. Ms. Simpson?
Thank you.
Yes, hi. Thank you for that introduction. We are, again, very thankful for this donation that we're getting from the community to continue to help support our efforts around distance learning. And I don't want to take too much of his thunder, because this money was actually used to enhance our technology support for our students. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed Hilton, Director of Technology and Information Services. And I know he's really excited to go shopping for our students. So please share.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, President Zurich. I do more than read public comments. It's my dream to be the director of technology, and it's great to be in a community that supports technology. And it really has been a privilege to be able to watch how quickly our students and teachers and staff were able to pivot over the last year due to the commitment of technology by the board, by our community, and also by those who the philanthropic folks in our community that support us. And Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation has been a great partner in supporting our goals and providing technology. And we do live in an environment that is difficult for connectivity for quite a few of our families. And we were able to partner with a few organizations, and Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation put it over the edge for us just to provide both devices for all of our students. We had a one-to-one initiative, which is one device per student before the pandemic in grades 4 through 12. And after the pandemic, expanded that to TK through 12. And so this grant has allowed us to expand that project. In addition, the grant helped us purchase hotspots for our students who were underserved or not served by a wired internet connection, and that still is an issue in our community. So just keep that on the forefront of our community's minds. And we've been working with both the public Tahoe Truckee PUD as well as the town of Truckee to increase access for our students in a lot of different ways. And we're thankful for those hotspots that bridge the gap for connectivity and keeping students connected wherever they are. So thank you, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation. Even though, when we do go back, it will still provide access for our students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hilton. Board questions? Public comment on this item? Would someone like to make a motion?
I will, before I make the motion, thank Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation again and again and again and again. They seem to be just sort of always on the edge of helping us when we hit different milestones of need. So with that, I will make a motion to approve the grant 11.1.
Yes, thank you so much, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, for helping us with our most disadvantaged learners. This is definitely a very critical component of keeping children on track. So with that, I'll second.
Okay, Member Levac,
Aye.
Member Hennessy,
Aye.
Member Driller,
Aye.
Clerk Larson,
Yes.
President Surek.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is 11.2. This is actually a grant funneled through the through the Community Foundation, also from the Charitable Trust, from Alana Amsterdam and Rob Katz, for mental health programs for our district.
Yes, the Cats and Amsterdam Foundation has been very generous to the TTUSD district, and with additional details, I'm going to ask Mr. Santos to discuss the donation that they've made on behalf of our students.
Thank you, Superintendent Geisels and Board. For those that don't know, the Cats Amsterdam Foundation has provided mental health donations and support through various mountain communities, ski town communities, based on the mental health needs of working in an industry that's seasonal, as well as some of the mental health challenges that might be focused with weather, work, employment, living, and so forth. Cats Amsterdam Foundation has definitely been supportive of our district for a number of years, and thanks to the foundation for spearheading these grant efforts to help out. These funds definitely will align with what our message has been since we've been in COVID regarding the social emotional needs of our youth and our families and community that will go towards providing additional mental health counseling and support for students throughout our district. So thank you to the Amsterdam Foundation, Cats Amsterdam Foundation, as well as the Community Foundation as well. So thank you.
Sorry, any board questions on this? Any public comment?
No comments on this item.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 11.2 grant.
I'll second. Member Lidak? Aye. Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes. And just to keep injecting a little levity in these meetings, Chris Hennessy's cat was the last one to make an appearance on screen. So we'll just keep that up. Next is a grant from the Martis Camp Community Foundation for our wonderful Sage Hen outdoor program.
Yes, the Sage Hen Outdoor Program is a partnership between our district and the Sage Hen Creek Field Research Station, the Sierra Watershed Education Program, and the Shane McConkey Foundation. This is a unique outdoor program for many reasons. Their classes are taught by outdoor educators. It provides local students access to standards-based learning environment that is literally in our backyard. And students learn a variety of skills and gain knowledge about many different topics. So the donation is an equivalent of $11,000 from the Martis Camp Community Foundation. So staff is recommending that we accept the grant from the Martis Camp Community Foundation for Sage Hen Outdoor Education.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Any public comment, Mr. Hilton?
No comments on this item.
A motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the grant for Sage Hen from the Martis Camp Foundation 11.3.
I'll second. Member Lidak? Aye. Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have an amazing community that supports our kids. Next, we're going to move on to negotiations. This is an annual a set of items that we go through that is the first part of initially opening negotiations between our Teachers Association and the school district. There's 2 items related to this, and there will be a secondary public notification at our next meeting. So this first one is consideration and public notice of the Teachers Association, the Tahoe Truckee Education Association, initial proposal to the TTUSD regarding the certificated unit bargaining agreement for 2021.
Yes. So at this time, I would like Ms. Jones Zapatini to speak to this item on the agenda, and she can provide you more details.
Well, thank you, President Zurich, because you did a fabulous job describing this part of the process. So each year when we go into negotiations for both of our units, we have what's called the sunshine part of the process, which is tonight. And both sides, meaning the teachers union in this certificated and also the district, present what articles within the bargaining contract that we are going to open for negotiation. So tonight we are presenting that, and then the next step for the board would be to approve those and to move on to a public hearing that will happen at the next board meeting on February 4th before we're able to move forward to negotiate.
Thank you, Ms. Sabatini. Questions from board members? Public comment on this item?
No comments on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Would someone like to make a motion on this item?
I will make a motion on the 12.1 negotiations.
I'll second.
Too much to read.
Yeah, right. I get it.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then secondarily, the next item, 12.2, is the district's items that they would like to propose for negotiations for this year.
So just similar to the last one, this is the district's proposing the articles that they would like to open up. And again, we're asking the board to approve that to move forward to the public hearing on February 4th.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Public comment, Mr. Hilton?
No public comment on this item.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 12.2 negotiations clause.
I'll second.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we're moving to the consent agenda. Superintendent Geisels, does staff wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
No, President Zurich, we do not.
Would any board members like to pull any items? Would someone like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have two personnel items. The first is an annual item that we do also, and this is approve the revised declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Actually, this is a revision of something we already did earlier this year.
Correct. Thanks, President Zurich. We're bringing this forward for the revision in doing our work with the new program, CalSAS, where they're looking at credentialing. We discovered that we needed to do some permitting for some of our current employees. So this allows us to fulfill that for the remainder of the year and make sure that they're fully qualified to teach what they're teaching.
Questions from board members? Public comment?
No comments on this item.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 15.1.
I'll second.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurek?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, under personnel, we have approving the recommendation of assignment to teach for the 2021 school year.
Thank you, President Zurich. Again, this is one to support credentialing of one of our employees, and under Ed Code 44256, we verify that this person has the right semester units and coursework in order to teach what they're teaching.
Yes. Board questions? Public comment?
Not on this item.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 15.2.
I'll second.
Member Levac?
Aye.
Member Hennessy?
Aye.
Member Driller?
Aye.
Clerk Larson?
Yes.
President Zurich?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have our board policies. I did not see any homework questions on these policies. Is that correct, Superintendent Geisels?
That is correct.
Are my fellow board members okay with moving these to consent on the next board meeting?
Yep.
Okay, we will do so. Wow. Okay, so we're at board comments. So I'm going to take a little bit of privilege here and go first this time. I wanted to read a list of names. And, you know, we talk a lot about this year and how hard this year has been and what a challenge it's been for our staff and for everybody, everybody we know. But this is a list of names of the custodians in our district. And I'm only going to read their first names, but these folks are people who support our schools and our kids every single day in a way that we could not be without. So I just feel really compelled to read this list. Dee Dee, would you mind? Yeah, thank you.
What is that?
If you could just mute, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. So here's the list of names of our custodians in our school district who have provided our kids just the most amazing service. Susan, Maria, Salvador, Joaquin, Gregory, Jaime, Arturo, David, Jeremy, Claudia, Esther, Gregorio, Jesus, Miguel, Gustavo, Umberto, Jose, Felipe, Jose, Ramon, Francisco, Antonio, Salvador, Bernarda, Clemente, Gordon, Maria, Jose, and Leonardo. Thanks to all of you for all you do for keeping our district safe. And you're even more important during this time as we transition to hybrid. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So very much appreciated. And the only other thing I wanted to address during my board comment was that I believe as we are moving towards hybrid for our students that I would like to move our board meetings into the boardroom as we did previously for hybrid, if that's okay. And I know we have one board member who's a bit higher risk, so we'll figure that out just like we do for our employees that are a bit higher risk. So thank you all for listening to me. Who would like to go next? Dee Dee?
Yeah, I have not had a whole lot of other changes going on. I am thinking on the same brain as Carmen in terms of opening things up and trying to keep all those entities safe. So I've struggled as well. I don't have quite the support team that she's got going on, but I always say this at the end of the time. I just think that everyone has to really be so thankful that we are in Tahoe Truckee. I think we're in a great spot and we're in a great place. We have great resources around us. And I think, again, we talk about unity, but I also think it's really being aware of what you're doing so that you can keep the rest of us safe as well. And I think making smart choices in smart places will get us farther along. That's hope all is well. I'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Dee Dee. And you're so right. We all have to contribute to this. So thank you. Who would like to go next?
I'll just jump in. I just wanted to thank the executive cabinet, the Carmen, the school board members, and every single member of our staff, because, certificated and classified. I think the last 4 years has given us a very clear example of how important it is for leadership to be ethical, legal, moral, and also motivated to continue regardless of the obstacles. So I feel very honored to be a part of this entire school district because I think we're doing a really good job despite the constant obstacles that are being thrown at us. And I couldn't be prouder of this school district right now because we're up here in the middle of nowhere trying to figure it out. And we're also inundated with tourists constantly. And that's become a Wall Street Journal article. If you haven't seen it, we're really in a tough spot. So I just want to thank everyone for your perseverance and not giving up, because I think it's going to be a brand new day and a brand new administration with people who value education as much as we do, instead of minimizing it and ostracizing it. So I'm really proud of you guys. Thank you for just kicking butt. I would say the A word, but I'm going to try to stay clean tonight.
Galen?
No, I have nothing tonight.
Thank you, Galen. Chris?
Same as Mr. Larson. I don't have anything. Just thank you for attending and sending in your public comments. And good job, district office staff. Thank you for everything you're doing to get us set for the first.
All right, you all. Thank you. We'll see you in hybrid at our next meeting.